Hi, this is David Bedford back for another episode in our exploration of the Beatles in Liverpool for Bright Moon Liverpool. And today we're in Huyton, it's a part of Merseyside, a little bit out of the way from the city centre. This is the area where Stuart Sutcliffe grew up. And today we're going to celebrate and commemorate the sad passing of Stuart Sutcliffe at the age of 21 back in 1962. This is Huyton Parish Church, and this is where Stuart's funeral took place. Of course, the Beatles couldn't be there for the funeral because they just started at the Star Club. Louise Harrison came on behalf of the parents of the Beatles. And then after the funeral, he was taken to Huyton Cemetery, and we're going to go and see Stuart's grave, think a little about his life, but also there's been a number of myths and speculation around how he died too. So we'll come back to this bench on the way out of the cemetery, but let's go down to see Stuart's grave. So Stuart died on the 10th of April 1962. He was only 21 years old, which makes it so much more tragic. He started getting severe headaches at the end of 1961. Had seen a doctor in Germany. He had x-rays done of his head and there was nothing there. He brought those x-rays back to Liverpool on a visit here, and again doctors could see nothing on there. Some of the suggestion was it was his lifestyle. Obviously they were living up in Hamburg, there's a lot of alcohol and the prellies, playing late nights, and of course he was then painting as well, which led to him quitting the Beatles in the June of 61. Now there's been a lot of speculation as to why Stuart had died so young. Now we know there was one occasion in January 61 when the Beatles were playing up at Lathom Hall, and after the gig Stuart was jumped. Because he was the smallest in the band, they obviously went for him. When word went up that Stuart had been jumped, John and Pete Best dived out. Now, of course, Pete Best, boxing family, did martial arts, played rugby, was very, very tough. John not so tough, but the two of them flew out and got the guys off Stuart, but he took some severe beatings to the head. And when he got home that evening, his mum just saw all the blood and was terrified. Now, if that had caused his death, we would expect to have seen some symptoms pretty soon after, and you would assume he would have died within a matter of weeks if that had been the cause. That wasn't the case, so we can rule that one out. There's also been speculation that John had a fight with Stuart in Hamburg, which has never really been proven. Again, if there had been such an incident and Stuart had been kicked in the head, again you would likely have seen symptoms. So what really happened? Well, we know he had these headaches towards the end of 1961. They got worse. He was having trouble sleeping. He was up all night. He was pacing the floors. His behaviour got a little bit more erratic. He started writing these long rambling letters to John Lennon back in Liverpool. And obviously Astrid was severely concerned for him. We believe at one point he did have a fall down the stairs, and his condition just got worse and worse. And when he had another collapse, Astrid rang for the ambulance, and sadly Stuart died in her arms on the way to the hospital. As fate would have it, the day after, the Beatles landed and they were come to open the Star Club in Hamburg. When they got to the airport, they would normally expect to see Stuart and Astrid, and of course there was only Astrid, and it was there that she had to tell John especially, but all of the Beatles, that Stuart had died the day before. John went into hysterics before eventually he burst into tears, and he was absolutely devastated. at the loss of his close friend. It was yet another traumatic tragedy in John's life. And this is Stuart's grave. Because one of the sad things for the family was that his dad Charles, who was a merchant seaman, he was down by South America, so he couldn't be contacted for a while, and certainly couldn't get back in time for the funeral. Of course, with him being so young, there was an autopsy, and the autopsy found no evidence of any trauma to the head, and the official conclusion was it was a cerebral paralysis because of blood seeping into the right ventricle of his brain. So most likely it was a congenital condition, probably with an aneurysm that burst, and that's one of the things that can happen at any time with someone who has that condition. So it's very, very sad to have lost Stuart at such a young age. So I mentioned we'd come back to the bench. So located just inside the cemetery is this bench where you can come to sit. But this is dedicated to Stuart, as you can see, in loving memory of Stuart Sutcliffe. 23rd of June 1940 to 10th of April 1962, 21 years old. Painter, poet, artist, musician, and founder member of the Beatles, loved from family and friends. And it's a lovely bench in a perfect place just to sit and to contemplate. And we have to say a big thank you to Stuart fan Tracy Sadler, whose idea it was, and she helped to get the money together, all the complicated forms and phone calls and communications with trying to get something like this done. And it was wonderful when it was unveiled. It was lovely to be here with Tracy, with Stuart's sister Joyce, with one of Stuart's best friends, Rod Murray, and other members of Stuart's family. And it's a lovely dedication to Stuart. So as I sit here on Stuart's bench, just nice to spend just a few moments just thinking about Stuart's contribution to the Beatles, and what a talented artist he was, and so much more, which we'll cover in a video soon as a celebration of Stuart's life. So don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it, and we'll be bringing you more from the Beatles Liverpool very soon.